The Gaslighting and Bullying Project. This is taken from the ninth chapter of my book, Moving Forward. I learned yesterday that I'm a philologist, gynist, that is, a woman who likes and admires other women. I therefore advocate for women, especially in the face of the transgender advocates who whose particular targets are girls and women. The campaign to force people, especially women, to allow themselves to be gaslit and bullied started in the 1960s. Before that, the assertive woman and girl was admired in movies and literature. In the 1960s, widespread drug use was initiated, and while under the influence of these substances, women were more easily exploited. Women were also encouraged to behave in as much like men as possible, smoking, drinking, and using contraceptives so that they behave like men in this previously fraught human behavior. Behaving like men was supposed to free women from the constraints of biology, social mores, and moral responsibility. As intended, they could now be accused of being complicit in their abuse by men, because after all, they had the freedom to choose as much as men did. This call to behave like men was the first big gaslight. The next phase of the campaign was to indicate to women as well as men that they should remain mild under whatever negative situation they found themselves in. Otherwise, you were seen as having no class. This idea is not new, but it was clearly advocated in the 19th century British novel Man of Mode by George Etheridge. In this novel, a married woman is tricked into an affair with an upper class playboy. He double crosses her by seeing another single woman who he seems to feel is better than the woman he is having the affair with. The married woman outspokenly criticizes the playboy's behavior towards her, which seems to me a natural reaction to him cheating on her, clearly having just used her. In her case, speaking out was viewed as being inferior to the motto, never complain, never explain. It seems that readers should have no sympathy for her because she was a married woman who was choosing to be indiscreet, not only in the relationship, but in her bucking social norms of silence. Adapting the motto only works to your benefit if what you were to have to complain about is minimal. But if it is abusive or criminal, it definitely works for the benefit of the abuser, someone who today is described in psychological terms as the modern narcissist or sadist. This be- is because it allows for bullying without the unpleasant consequences of the bully facing unpleasant reactions from the victim or being publicly revealed for who they are. Not confronting narcissists suits them just fine. Also, not telling others about the abuser's behavior towards you, that is, never complaining or explaining, allows them to continue to obtain further victims. It is supposed to be better to pretend that everything is fine in your relationship to save yourself from shame and embarrassment. This is what my mother was influenced to do as a social norm, and for this reason, my position is that you are being ill-treated. If you're being ill-treated, you should reveal it as much as possible. If every victim did this, our society would rid itself of the conspiracy to gaslight and bully. On the other hand, dumbing victims down when they discover they've been a victim of a narcissistic campaign ensures that those who exhibit these character traits escape accountability. The nefarious plot of sex education in schools. I was just about to graduate from Bishop's High School in Georgetown, Guyana, when I heard through the grapevine that the school was planning to introduce sex education into the curriculum. I had no interest in it, so I was glad that I would not be forced to be part of a class subjected to this unwanted information. Ostensibly, sex education was touted as beneficial for young people, especially girls, to prevent them from suffering unwanted pregnancies, or so that teenagers in general would not be forced to become parents prematurely or embark on unwanted marriage. Inexplicably, the contraceptive pill was introduced and promoted at the same time. One may then ask, if the pill was supposed to be so successful, why bother with preventing pregnancy because of sexual activity? Sorry. Noticeably, there was no epidemic of unwanted pregnancies visible in our society at the time, although I had been privy to a conversation between my parents and an obnoxious American who had accused girls in Guyana of becoming sexually active at 13, as if this was particularly a third world problem. He disgusted me because I could tell he was saying it to be insulting to those they designate as lesser than, although the sexual mores in his first world country was much looser. We didn't know it at the time, but we all now know who the really promiscuous ones were, evidenced by the hippie movement that became popular worldwide. It seems to me that the manufacturers of the pill wanted to exploit third world countries to sell their product to as wide a customer base as possible, and has now become very apparent in the 21st century. The plot has been to make people believe there is no problem by propaganda and then offer a solution that benefits the schemer either financially or politically. At the same time, second wave feminism promoted the idea of equality between the sexes. First wave feminism had fought strenuously for equality of voting rights. Now biology was supposed to be overridden, and the sexes were to be equal in all things, with a special focus on sexual behavior. Second wave feminists advocated for the sexual liberation of women, who they argued they should be as carefree as men when it came to the frequency of sexual activity and the multiplicity of partners. Advocating for a lifestyle for women that is not even healthy for men is nefarious in the extreme, because the risk of sexually transmitted diseases is hidden, as well as just the sheer waste of time involved in pursuing meaningless relationships. The result? Women experience unwanted pregnancy more than ever, although there is the pill and several other forms of contraception. Venereal diseases not only plague men but women as well. Then it is obvious that sex education and the pill have not been any way beneficial to our society, because women do still get pregnant. Because the pregnancy was not prevented, this leads to resorting to abortion to get rid of the result of their immorality and irresponsibility. However, no one able to do something about it seems to reflect on whether such policies as sex education in school or encouraging young people to expose themselves to venereal disease, as well as girls and women, to the physical and emotional pain of an abortion, which often makes them guilt ridden, is just a failed social experiment. Then we have people who decry the low birth rate in developed countries, attributing it to sexual impotence, while ignoring the fact that contraception and abortion are more often made available in these countries. At last count, it was estimated by the CDC that in the US, 90% of women use contraceptives. 60% of them have a venereal disease, while another 40% have had an abortion. Since 1973, when the right to abortion was made legal by the Supreme Court, 65 million babies have been aborted. There's your low birth rate right there. We have been betrayed by our leaders for decades. Time for new, responsible leadership that does not sway to every wind of change or idea promoted by evildoers like Margaret Sanger and people like her ilk, and yeah, people of her ilk who don't educate the authorities or the people who accept their proposals about the possible long-term negative effects of their ideologies or reveal the true motive for promoting them, such as a Leninist imperative, as in the case of Sanger. Mostly to blame are our leaders, who are seduced by money or cower in the face of strident activists. DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and CRT, which is, I forget what that is, same goals as the charged Mantle cult. Today I opened the box containing a meter from Numeris, a company that secretly monitors television and digital media habits, information that they sell to government and businesses. I immediately noticed that the instruction booklet only featured black people, a white looking woman as the wife of a very black man, and mixed race people of white and African heritage. There were no other races or ethnicities featured in the booklet. It therefore appeared to me that Numeris is partaking in a plan to erase white people from their rightful position as the majority population in Canada. Moreover, it is only black people or those with connection to or who have some African heritage. To me, this is blatantly racist. While the company who produced the booklet may feel that they are achieving their aggressive goal because the booklet they produced, either with or without the approval of Numeris, has to accept what they have portrayed here. I will tell Numeris that they have produced an extreme amount of anger in me because what they portray is a lie and clearly meant to be divisive. Since only 8% of the Canadian population claims African heritage, and because I hate the arrogance behind the intention to manipulate the public, of which I am one, I perceive the booklet as an example of the partnership of this Canadian business with American businesses who are advocating diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and critical race theory, CRT, at the instigation of big investors such as BlackRock and Vanguard, who have a $20 million portfolio, are involved in a number of projects harmful to the American people and in turn to Canada, its closest neighbor. At the extreme, I conjecture that these companies want to start a race war, have the international community that they control condemn white people and everyone else other than black, condemn the response as they're doing to Israel, and wrest their wealth and power from them, placing it in their own hands. This revolutionary process of catapulting those at the who are at the prevailing who in the prevailing view as being at the bottom of the social ladder, the proletariat, using the vocabulary of Marxist theory and catapulting them to the top, overcoming the bourgeoisie. However, instead of a class war, a race war or social revolution in the style of Lenin or Mao, start over. The revolutionary process of catapulting those at the bottom of the social ladder, the proletariat, using the vocabulary of Marxist theory to the top, overcoming the bourgeoisie. However, instead of a class war, a race war or social revolution in the style of Lenin or Mao. What these morons fail to perceive is that there is no distinct power, only held by white people. Many black people in the US are rich, well educated, and powerful, and black people are not universally downtrodden as the poor were in Russia, China, or Cuba. I propose that the neo Marxists have engineered a situation to elicit a reactive, angry response by putting laws into place, such as became law in Scotland on April 1st, 2024, that describe anything that is said against their policies as hate speech. While the first enactment of hate speech laws was in response to Holocaust deniers, the revolutionaries have succeeded in adding other descriptions of what should be considered hate speech. These descriptions allow for objectionable, racist, discriminatory, dictatorial laws, and then condemn any social opposition for meeting these descriptions, and then can then impose tyrannical punishments. I look forward to the time when they will be ousted, because I am not a masochist, which it seems that a significant of white women appear to be. I'm invulnerable to being called racist because I am a visible minority. This accusation rings hollow, as it is coming from a person of another race, when it is used in relation to my objecting to imposing black only people as the way to have diversity and no other race. They are clearly racist, and there will be a backlash from everyone, not only white people. We need a leader who will do this in the style of the newly elected president of Argentina, Javier Milei and Bukele of Ecuador. I will glory in that day. Thanks for listening.